Today I'm going to discuss a new program developed by Microsoft Education Labs called Flashcards. Everyone knows about the traditional form of flashcards written on small pieces of paper with a question or vocab word on the front and an answer or definition on the back. Flashcards like these have been a study tool for many years and can be very helpful to students. These digital flashcards work in a similar way to the more traditional form, but offer some additional study benefits, making them even more versatile as an instrument for studying and as a classroom review tool. The first step in accessing the digital flashcards is to create a Windows Live account. This process is totally free and easy to do, and the only real requirement is that the user have an email address. If the user does not already have an existing address, they can create a Windows Live email account for the sole purpose of being able to access the Microsoft Education Lab tools. Seeing as every student will need to create an account, it would probably be best to send home a permission slip to inform parents and ask their permission to allow their child to create an account. After permission has been granted, a trip to the computer lab so that every student can be guided through the process of creating an account would be best. So once an account has been created, you will be directed to the home page. From here, you can access already existing flashcards by pressing the Browse tab, or you can create a deck of your own by clicking the Create Deck button. The flashcard creator is very user-friendly, and making a deck of cards can be a pretty quick process depending on how fancy you want to get. If you simply want to create cards with a question on one side and an answer on the other, then you will just type your questions in the boxes under Question and your answers in the boxes under Answer. The neat thing about digital flashcards is you don't have to simply have boring old cards with a few words on each slide. With digital flashcards, you can add images or sounds to accompany each card. This application makes these flashcards compatible with the universal design for instruction, because a teacher can create cards with visual cues for those who struggle with reading, or audio cues for the visually impaired. In fact, a teacher could potentially record the question and answer to each flashcard and have the recordings play while the flashcards are used, so the user doesn't have to read at all. Here I have included a flashcard that I created with an image of a flower to help add a visual cue. The digital flashcards have three modes available for use. The first mode is the review mode, and as its name implies, this mode can be used as a form of review for the student. In review mode, all the flashcards are essentially presented as a slideshow that the student can scroll through and read over before beginning to quiz him or herself. After reviewing, the student can begin the study mode. In study mode, the student views a specific card, decides upon an answer, and then hits the flip over button to check themselves. If the student answered correctly, then he or she would hit the check mark, but if the student was incorrect, then they would hit the red X. A student can also hit the Q or A button on that taskbar to switch the program from prompting with the question side of the card or the answer side. The Type It In mode is another form of the study mode in which the student actually types in an answer in a text bar below the card. This allows students to not only mentally decide upon a correct answer, but to also type it in, further reinforcing the information. Another great feature of the digital flashcards is the progress over time bar at the bottom of the screen. The flashcard program is set up to remember which cards were answered correctly and which were answered incorrectly. Those answered correctly repeatedly over time will move towards the right side of the bar labeled Good Memory, and those cards that the student repeatedly struggles with will stay on the left side of the bar labeled Keep Trying. As the student studies the cards, the program will begin to select the cards that the student struggles with more often and skip over those that the student understands. If the student practices long enough and repeatedly answers all the cards correctly, eventually all the cards will move to the right-hand side of the screen. After a study session with the cards, a student can view a report of their progress. These reports can even be printed out and turned into the instructor for an effort grade, or to help an instructor discover areas where students are struggling the most within a unit of study. Digital flashcards have several applications. For one, They can be created by teachers and then made available for students as an alternative to the more traditional outline-style study guide. As mentioned before, if teachers were to add images and sounds to the cards, this would highly benefit those students with impairments in reading, or even students who simply benefit from being able to see, hear, and interact with information being presented to them. Teachers can also create the cards and display them in class during an in-class review session. And of course, students themselves can also create a personalized set of flashcards to help them review for a test coming up. So just to summarize, the digital flashcards created by Microsoft Education Labs are easy and free to use. They also can help the students review in both visual and audio formats, therefore accommodating those students that may have disabilities. And the flashcards can be used in a variety of ways, from personal use for a student to a class-wide review session.